This series of videos is designed to assist players in learning LWRS or Bewegungskrieg. The training video is applicable to the standard version of LWRS and all reformatted versions of LWRS called Bewegungskrieg. Part 2 covers aircraft missions. LWRS allows aircraft to conduct one of 6 missions and helicopters to conduct one of 2 missions. In the standard game, you deploy aircraft which can only conduct one mission. So, for example, CAP aircraft can only conduct CAP missions. If using the optional rules, some flexibility is allowed, so tank busters can also conduct strike missions. This is particularly applicable to Sturmoviks and also Ju-87s. Carpet bombers are designed for pre-battle bombing of a defined area. They are only available at the start of the game. Examples include all heavy bombers and most medium bombers. It is very rare for players to deploy a carpet bombing mission. It was also rather rare in reality. After deployment and before play begins, the attacking player randomly places carpet bombing templates around the playing area. It is unclear how the templates are placed and how the randomness is achieved. I suspect some house rules may be required. The defender then determines if elements in a carpet bombing template are eliminated or if they survive. In the example shown, a battalion is mostly under a carpet bombing template, which means each element must roll a d6 with a 1 or 2 resulting in the element being lost. In this case, 2 elements are eliminated. Armoured elements can get a save throw, but that does not apply in this case. Battalions are either fully in a template, mostly or partially. This will affect the die roll result. Personally, there are a lot of unclear areas with the carpet bombing rules. However, as I never use them, I have never made any effort to clarify the rules or fill in gaps. I also feel that treating infantry in the open and infantry entrenched the same is problematic. Players may wish to fill in their own gaps or make their own modifications. Level bombers are a one-shot weapon that are used just before the battle. For each aircraft conducting level bombing, the owning player rolls 6d6, and each successful hit, which is always a 5 or 6, removes a point of enemy supply. Examples of level bombers include all medium bombers and some heavy bombers. The latter would be more common in Cold War conflicts. In this case, a single German medium bomber rolls 6d6, achieving 2 hits. This causes the loss of 2 enemy supply points. Observation missions are treated as reconnaissance units. They may be placed on the table during the aircraft phase. If they survive enemy CAP and AAA, they are identical to reconnaissance units, except with a larger area of effect, 30 centimetres, not the usual 10 centimetres. In this case, an observation aircraft is placed on the playing area. As with other deployments, it must pass a quality test. If it fails, it is returned to the player edge, available for subsequent game turns, and if it spins a 1, it is eliminated when its mission ends, or it loses a strength point when its mission ends if optional rules are being used. In this case, it spins a 2 and remains on the playing area. As with any aircraft mission, the enemy player can intercept the mission with a CAP. In turn, you can attempt to intercept the enemy CAP with your own CAP escort flight. If interception is successful, the observation aircraft is returned to the game turn record chart 2 to 4 game turns from the current game turn, if using optional rules, or placed back on the player edge, available for use in the following game turn if using the standard rules. According to the rules, the observation aircraft needs to survive enemy anti-aircraft fire. As anti-aircraft fire is used to save hits, I suspect some rules are missing. My assumption is, instead of saving, the anti-aircraft fire can cause the observation aircraft to go away if it spins a save against it. Assuming equal quality, the heavy anti-aircraft gun needs a 4 or greater to cause the observation aircraft to be removed. If removed, it is returned to the game turn record chart 1 to 4 game turns from the current game turn, if using the optional rules, or available next game turn if using the original rules. Once placed, the observation aircraft has an effect of 30 centimetres and acts in the same manner as a reconnaissance element. I assume it's removed at the end of the game turn, which means its only real benefit is to allow the re-rolling of combat rolls, artillery calling rolls, and withdrawal rolls. If I'm incorrect and it remains for the entire game, then it has all the same re-roll effects as a standard reconnaissance element. In my opinion, there are a lot of gaps in the observation rules, but as I never use observation missions, I have never made any attempt to fill in any of the gaps. Players may wish to create their own rules to fill in any gaps as they see it. There are no rules which allow helicopters to conduct observation missions. While this omission is understandable for World War II, it's less reasonable for the modern period. Players may wish to allow helicopters to conduct observation missions in the same manner as aircraft conducting observation missions. The strike mission is probably the second most used aircraft mission. In most rules, strike is called ground support or air support and represents aircraft conducting attacks against enemy ground forces using bombs, rockets or guns. An aircraft conducting a strike mission possesses 3 fire points, or in simple terms, uses 3 d6 dice. As with all combat, a roll of 4 to 6 results in a hit. The defender may then attempt a save die roll, using the indirect defensive points or modifiers. An unmodified save requires a die roll of 5 or 6. The Polish infantry is deployed and entrenched, so gains 2 defensive points, which means any result of 3 to 6 will be a save. The Polish light tank is not deployed and not entrenched, but does have light armour, so gains 1 defensive point. This results in a save if the d6 is 4 to 6. Helicopters act in the same manner as aircraft, except heavy anti-aircraft cannot attack them, which I assume means heavy anti-aircraft guns or missiles are unable to conduct saves against helicopter hits. Helicopters in this case represents rocket and gun armed helicopters. The scenarios contain some optional rules which provide different firepower values for different helicopter types, but this optional rule is not necessary and can be ignored. I cannot help but think this rule concerning anti-aircraft fire has changed at some point in the development of the rules, and this has not been fully reflected in this version of the rules. Nonetheless, sufficient rules exist for players to use helicopters and anti-aircraft fire as long as some rule gap filling is conducted by players. When conducting a strike mission, the aircraft does not occupy any space on the playing area. It is considered to conduct the attack from the same area as the target element. This is why the anti-aircraft save is based on the location of the target element and not on any possible aircraft location. As a result, the actual aircraft element can occupy any location on the playing area, with the owning player clearly indicating its target. Players may even choose not bother deploying actual aircraft figures if they so desire, but as we're doing figure gaming, I tend to prefer to have all the possible figures on the playing area as is possible. It should be noted the main objective of aircraft, or helicopters for that matter, is to cause disorder by inflicting at least one loss or casualty. Otherwise, the effect is minimal by itself. Tank busters are designed for the destruction of enemy tanks and other armoured vehicles. They attack an enemy combat unit or battalion with either 3, 2 or 1 dice, depending on their grade and the grade of their target. The enemy may attempt to save using the direct fire defensive points. If the tank buster aircraft or helicopter rolls a 1 when being called in, they are eliminated after their mission if using the original rules, or suffer 1 strength point loss after their mission if using the optional rules. Against soft targets they have 1 direct fire point. Any aircraft with a cannon or missile which can penetrate armour can conduct tank busting missions. Examples include Sturmovix, HS-129s and A-10s. The tank busting aircraft has 1 fire point against the infantry and as a result only uses a single d6 with a 4 to 6 resulting in a hit. If they do achieve a hit, the infantry can attempt to save using the direct fire modifiers. If the German aircraft has a quality of 4 and the infantry a quality of 3, there is a -1 defensive points modifier. The infantry is emplaced and entrenched, so gain 2 defensive points. Any die roll of 4 or 6 will result in a save in this case. The tank busting aircraft on the right has a grade of 4 against the tank grade of 3, resulting in 3 fire points. or 3d6, with a 4 or 6 resulting in a hit. If a hit is achieved, which is very likely, the save roll of 5 to 6 is modified by -1 during the difference in quality. A save roll of 6 is required to save against those hits. I'm certain if this is the intention of the rules, but that is my reading of them. Personally, I feel high-quality aircraft should gain some benefit because of greater skill in attacking, and the target quality should have an effect in terms of experience and ability to minimise the effect of an air attack. In this case, we get that quality effect. Attack helicopters can also fly tank-busting missions. Helicopters armed with ATGWs or anti-tank guns, such as the AH-64, Gazelles, MBB-105s or Hinds firing ATGWs. These conduct an attack in the same manner as aircraft. In this example, the Mi-8 armed with ATGWs will not have a bigger effect on the infantry, so it would be better off conducting a strike using their guns or rocket pods. The Russian attack helicopter with ATGWs will have a reasonable effect against the US M1 main battle tank. In this case, it gets 2 5 points or 2 d6 dice, and the save throw is 5 to 6. It should be noted the main objective of aircraft or helicopters conducting tank-busting missions is to cause disorder by inflicting at least one loss or casualty, otherwise the effect is minimal. The rules are unclear on this, and as a result I've been forced to make many assumptions, but my assumptions do seem reasonable. Because this is a direct fire attack, it could be argued that a disorder does not occur as a result of one loss and can only occur as a result of 2 hits, and players can certainly play the rules in that manner. The rules do indirectly account for transport helicopters with their air assault rules. However, there is no need to ever actually deploy transport helicopters, or transport aircraft for that matter. I tend to like to have those figures, but the rules really don't require you to possess those figures or to deploy them anywhere. This concludes part 2 of my LWRS training video series. I have no idea what part 3 will be, but I'm sure it'll be good. Denken Sie daran, immer für Ihr Heimatland zu kämpfen. Lightning War Red Storm was written by Andrew Stevenson. The current version, designed for both World War II and modern conflicts, is dated 2013. However, earlier versions were available as early as 2008. The rules use company-size elements, each consisting of 3 steps or strength points. These elements form battalions, and the basic combat unit is the battalion. The combat system uses a simple lots of d6 combat mechanism, and the sequence of play is an initiative-based movement phase system, followed by a fire phase. There is nothing revolutionary, but the package works very well. Bewegungskrieg version 1 is a reformatted version of the original rules with errata. Included are any corrections, additional numbering, updated tables, and additional cross-referencing. There is no changes to the original rules. All credits for the game design and rules go to Andrew Stevenson. Bewegungskrieg version 2 is an enhanced version of the original rules with errata. Included are any corrections, additional numbering, updated tables, and additional cross-referencing. Also included are optional rules such as terrain, weather, setup, or any other rules which fill gaps in the original rules. This version of the rules includes additional diagrams, figures, and commentary. The original rules are unchanged, but additional rules have been added to fill any gaps. Any credit for the game system and design goes to Andrew Stevenson. Alle guten Dinge gehen zu Ende.